With California announcing a record 71 deaths in one day, the governor today said it will take time to ease these stay-at-home restrictions.
This phase is one where science, where public health, not politics, must be the guide.
Governor Newsom announcing 6 steps in what could be a blueprint for the nation, including community testing and isolating those who are positive or exposed, preventing infection in those who are at risk, preparing hospitals to handle a surge of patients, therapeutic drugs to meet demand, and social distancing at schools and businesses.
You may be having dinner with a waiter wearing gloves, maybe a face mask, dinner where your temperature is checked before you walk in to the establishment.
Newsom among the governors asserting their own independence after President Trump said he alone had total authority.
The President of the United States has the authority to do what the President has the authority to do, which is very powerful. The President of the United States calls the shots.
The president insisting he, not the governors, will decide when to reopen states.
When somebody's the President of the United States, the authority is total. And that's the way it's got to be.
Those comments touching off dissent.
His proclamation is that he would be king. That's what a king is. A king has total authority.
And disagreement, including from some Republicans.
Governors made decisions to take various actions in their states based on what they thought was right for their state.
Several regional state governors quickly announced they would coordinate with each other. In the Northeast, New York and 6 other states say the goal is to ease social isolation without triggering renewed spread. In the West, Washington, Oregon, and California have announced their own council. Even conservative constitutional law scholars say the president is simply wrong.
I have no idea what he is talking about. No clue. The Constitution does not give the president the power to instruct states what to do, and Congress has not given the president the power to instruct states what to do. The president simply lacks the authority here.
By midday, the president and several governors were talking about cooperation and reopening the economy.
I'm going to be making a decision pretty quickly, and it's being done in conjunction with governors.
I put my hand out in total partnership and cooperation with the president.
Late today, President Trump announced that he is suspending all funding for the World Health Organization pending an investigation. The president accuses the WHO of mismanaging the pandemic and covering up the crisis.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.